Disneyland is your land.
Come seek an adventure into your pirates, eh?
Made the jump to light speed.
Hi, and welcome to the Disneyland Beat, where our toes tap to a Disneyland drum and we always whistle while we work. Disneyland has begun running a Walt's Footsteps style tour called Walt's Main Street Story. I recently got to go on this 90-minute tour that cost about $160 to attend. A small group of about 5 or 6 of us met up at the Tour Gardens at Town Square, where a wonderful cast member, Ahmed, took us on a tour up and down Main Street, USA, and then into the highlight of the trip, a short jaunt backstage and into Walt's private family apartment above the fire station. A Disneyland photographer was waiting for us there and took pictures, and we got to linger for a while and ask questions, and then we had a short reception on the Disney family patio over City Hall. In today's video, we're going to share many of the spots highlighted on the tour, and also I'm going to go a little bit further into Main Street USA's history than the tour does. The tour relies heavily on the perspective of Walt Disney, which is of course apropos. But for instance, while it does credit Marceline, Missouri as an influence for the land, Imagineer Harper Goff and his hometown of Fort Collins are not mentioned. The tour does rely heavily on the narrative of Main Street, telling the story of what they were trying to do, rather than the actual history of how it came to be. But nonetheless, once I got inside that apartment, looking out onto Main Street, being regaled with sentimental tales of Walt Disney at opening day of Disneyland, it was a very powerful moment. I hope you enjoy the tour. Walt wanted to create a small town Main Street feel. So if Walt had happened to have grown up in a major urban area, a major city, this, Disneyland might be very, very different. Scene 1 of Disneyland. And by scene 1, I mean, this is the first scene that you see before you actually move on to the rest of the park. So if we think of the park as a show or as a movie, then we're thinking about how this is the first scene that's sort of almost like the pre-show. It's almost all the exposition and, sets up the anticipation for the rest of the entire movie. So it's really remarkable that Walt grew up in a small town, Marceline, Missouri, and that was a major influence on this. On Town Square, on Main Street, USA. The other major influence on Main Street, USA was the town of Fort Collins, Colorado. And I believe it was Imagineer Harper Goff, who's from Fort Collins, Colorado, and infused a lot of Marceline, Missouri and Fort Collins, Colorado, 2 small towns, but 2 nice, well-to-do small towns, into this idealized Main Street, USA. And Walt himself recognized from the beginning that this was not a replication of reality, but it was a nostalgic look back to your childhood, a nostalgic look back to a past with a fond, golden, gilded memory of that past. And that's what he wanted to create. We see here in City Hall, of course, Main Street USA is built to 3/4 scale, so it's smaller than everything, but we see our City Hall, which of course does have a scale upper level, 3rd story, does have a full-size 2nd floor. So there are offices up there on the 2nd floor, and it just makes a whole lot of sense to use City Hall as your center of information and customer service in the park. I think that was a wonderful homey touch that is really wonderful. Right here we see Marty Sklar's window. He's one of the most influential Imagineers in Disneyland history. This small building right here on Main Street USA actually used to be the police station. When they used to have the Keystone Cops that used to walk around Main Street USA, there was actually a saxophone band that all the cops would perform in. And this was the police station right here. Buzz Price is honored in that window. Walt stood right here at this flagpole as he gave his opening day speech, welcoming everybody to Disneyland, making the declaration that this was everybody's land, meant for everyone. And this special place is still here people stood and were looking at him from almost all of these windows, from all of these levels, as he made that speech and opened this wonderful place. And many say it was just the happiest moment of his life. It was a moment where your dreams come true. I think that's what Walt wanted to do for everybody. Over here on this side of Town Square, we have the Opera House, which I think it's interesting to note that the Opera House was actually the wood mill for Disneyland and for all of what we're seeing here. So, you know, when you're building something of this scale, you know, it's nice if you can have the materials created close. So they milled a lot of their own lumber right here. A wonderful place to connect with Walt is right here. This is one of the several benches out at Griffith Park where Walt was sitting when he came up with the idea of Disneyland. And here's one of the merry-go-round horses as well there. He would take his daughters to the carousel, merry-go-round there at Griffith Park, and he'd sit on the benches there, and he dreamed up the idea of a place where parents and kids could go and have fun together. Also in this lobby is a model of exactly what Disneyland looked like when it opened.
Yeah, need to relax though.
When Main Street USA first opened, there were actually Main Street USA citizens, sort of like there are over in Walt Disney World and citizens of Buena Vista Street. And it really helped complete the town in a way by having period townspeople and police officers and various different fire department folks and various different folks actually populating the town. Here we have the Main Street Hotel set up with windows like a hotel would be. And again, in these windows are different important people to Disneyland's history. Imagineers, cast members, employees, you name it. Roger Broggie, live steam engines, because he was one of the folks that worked on creating the Autopia mobiles and the train and all sorts of things. So he really helped build a lot of the mechanics of Disneyland. There's the hidden Elvis. So right in here is the Main Street Cinema, and this is Tilly, who, just like every other cast member at Disneyland, has a name badge. If we take a close look, we can see Tilly is from Marceline, Missouri, Walt's hometown. And she's having a cup of tea as she sells tickets. Cinema was the most popular form of entertainment in the 1890s. So here we have a representation of that and some of the earliest Mickey Mouse cartoons. I really love this one, the polo game. It's got so many different famous people from the time, including someone who looks an awful lot like Walt Disney. We can see there are gas lamps here on Main Street USA. Gas lamps were the most prominent form of lighting in the 1890s. So these gas lamps are actually, I think they were just like you'd see in Baltimore or New York. A couple other photo windows. Ship models, Bushman diagram manufacturers. Ken Anderson, Bait Company. Orange Grove Property Management, Ron Dominguez is the owner, one of the owners of the land that Walt bought this property from. And then we see up there, Emil Curie is an interior decorator, did a lot of work for Disneyland, did a lot of the interior decoration for Main Street USA, and was actually the interior decorator for Walt's apartment. Okay folks, welcome to Center Street East here on Main Street, USA. And every good town, every good small town has a whole lot of little shops and stores around that they need to have. So over here we have a dentist that uses light laughing gas. Up there we have a window for Bill Justice. I believe he was someone who worked on the Main Street Electrical Parade, brought that together. We have piano lessons upstairs with Sarah. Over here we have the Hotel Marceline. And if you hang out in this area for a while, you'll actually get to hear a lot of the things that are going on. Someone will take a shower up in that window. Someone will be working piano, taking piano lessons over here. Someone will be getting worked on at the dentist over here, and you'll hear them actually getting reactions and stuff like that. So it's really pretty cool. So over here we have Bob Gurr's window, and Bob Gurr had a lot to do with building the monorail and a lot of the Main Street vehicles, and worked really closely with Roger Broglie on quite a few things. Got ladies, including men's attire shop. And here they have a fruit stand in replacement of the flower stand that used to be. Over the years, a number of stores have come and gone at Main Street, USA. It has not been the same lineup of stores by any stretch at all. So lots of different stores have come and gone. Just like lots of different things come and go everywhere, every small town. Beautiful crystal arts. Silhouettes, it's very popular, and a form of art very popular at the turn of the century. And they'll hand cut those silhouettes in front of you, but that's a form of art that was very, very popular. You'd see like silhouettes on paper and velvet at the turn of the century, in the 19th to the 20th century. It's Edward T. Meck, editor-in-chief of the Disneyland News. There was actually a newspaper called the Disneyland News that was distributed on Main Street, USA, and there would be newsboys and who would hawk those. News barkers. Get your news here. Cicely Rigdon, finishing school, and Renee Bardou. And here we get to the plaza, right at Plaza Point. I also think it's definitely worth noting, you know, the Little Red Wagon over here in Plaza Inn work as part of Main Street, USA. But Main Street, USA continues over into this corner where they have the Children's Center and the First Aid Center, Baby Care Center. So if you ever have any issues, it's a great place to go. As we come to the plaza, we're supposed to be at the turn of the century now. So 1890 moving forward into the turn into the 20th century. And we'll see over at the Plaza Inn and over at the Jolly Holiday Bakery Cafe, lots and lots and lots of popcorn lights everywhere. Really gorgeous electric lighting like you used to see right around 1920, 1915, the turn of the century. And then from here, the plaza goes out to the hub, which isn't part of Main Street, USA. It's supposed to be the gateway to the rest of the park. It's a transition zone. Here at Refreshment Corner, you can catch Main Street piano players, which play in a stride piano style, a nice ragtime stride piano style that you would have found at around 1890, 1880. Refreshment Corner represents a really nice plaza, patio here where people would have sat, had a nice drink. And when they were building Main Street, USA, they actually had an issue that Walt was the solution for it, and they didn't know exactly what to do when they got to this corner right here, because they didn't know if that bulb right there should be red or white. And Walt decided that there should be a bicolor bulb that has both of the colors, so that Disneyland would be as consistent as possible. Here on Main Street, Walt wanted to have a penny arcade. And originally, when Main Street opened, there actually was a shooting gallery back in the back here. And there are, and up until very recently, there were some dime movies that you could watch. You put in a dime and you could look down on a viewfinder, and you can find a fortune teller, Esmeralda. She's definitely one of the main residents here. And here's some fun games that you would have found in a period arcade, in a period penny arcade. Electricity, see if you've got the love testers and the true grip challenge. Some collectible medallions, and we think we'll probably see those movie viewers back as well. I want to take you guys to the back here. So this is an orchestrion that was actually bought by Walt Disney in 1953, and it's actually been here in the park since 1955, and actually been moved over to this area right here. And it's a band in a box. It's got strings and a music box, and it's got drums and pipe organ, and it's a really cool piece. It hasn't always been Gibson Girls Ice Cream Parlor, but there's always been an ice cream parlor on Main Street, USA. And Walt has always been a fan of ice cream, by all accounts. Here we have Carnation Cafe, which is right at West Center Street on Main Street, USA. So we're gonna take a moment to check that out. This used to be a very large flower store, a very large flower shop that operated right here. And in this place where the Carnation Cafe is today, there used to be the sun-kissed orange juice house. And Walt was a big fan of orange juice, and they had this really cool juicing machine inside the inside the sun-kissed juice house. And it was this really neat juicing machine. You put the oranges in and it would juice the oranges. You could see the oranges running through the machine. And Walt really, really loved it. Apparently he used to sneak out of his apartment to come check it out at times. I love that Crystal Arcade sign back there. And eventually the Sunkist folks gave him a little juicer for his apartment. But apparently it didn't last long. He came down anyways. We see a few windows up here. We've got the old Settlers Gold Dredging for Ed Winger, proprietor, and Malele Fashions, Rini dressmaking. Rini Malele. So, the makers of Disneyland, homaged in the windows of Main Street, USA. Mercer's M.A. Mang, director. Waddle Rogers, menswear. Benjamin Silverstein, general practitioner, the doctor. Have a fever, have the flu, come on in and we'll cure you. Gotta have a doctor on Main Street.
So, never mind, I guess this is the one that
Novelties and souvenirs and a toy shop. And the entire emporium is very much designed as a turn-of-the-century Victorian influenced store with a lot of really wonderful homey items and homey touches. Of course, that brings us to the Disneyland Fire Department here. Up in that window, it's a new lamp, but it is a period lamp. Those three windows on the upper level are Walt Disney's apartment. And they are doing a tour right now that I've been telling you about, that I got to go on. And they didn't let you take video when you're up in there, and that makes sense. But they do take some pictures, and I'll show those to you as I'm talking. It's really nice. You get to go inside, and you get to see all the pictures. They talk about a lot of the items that are up there. You get to go backstage right through this area right here. Once you step backstage, Main Street USA becomes hard to hear as you're right by the hippo pool for Jungle Cruise. Inside Walt's apartment, it's truly magical to look out the window and imagine the Mouseketeers doing the same while watching Walt give his dedication speech to the park. It was hard not to tear up. The room is gorgeous, absolutely beautiful in cranberry red, a recreation of Emile Curie's design, but it's been plussed. The carpet and the wallpaper is more elaborate now than it once was. The items in the room are a mix of original, antique, and recreation items. Most of the originals were pointed out, such as Walt's grilled cheese maker and Tom and Jerry set, as were many of the antiques, such as the Victrola and the Carnival glass vases. There were some odd recreations too, such as the prop TV that actually had a brand name label, Vintage Television. But overall, it was done very, very well. One little fun fact, the shower in the bathroom has 4 shower heads. Walt was a man ahead of his time. Oh, and also, you could see where the fire pole was taken out. This pole used to actually extend all the way up into the apartment above Walt. Until one day a little boy climbed all the way up there and found Walt while he was doing some work. You see some stables in here for our horse-drawn fire truck. This horse-drawn fire truck actually used to be taken around the park and be one of the Main Street vehicles early days. And then after the tour of the apartment, they pull you out here onto this patio, this upper patio here, this terrace. And it's really nice up there. It's this really incredible mix of, you can hear everything going on in Adventureland and Jungle Cruise and everything that's going on out here in Main Street USA. You get to sit up there and have some beverages and some snacks, a nice cookie they give you. And you get to ask them some questions about Walt Disney, and it's really quite cool. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that tour of Main Street and got a little perspective into Walt's influence on Disneyland and Main Street USA. May the light in the firehouse window always shine brightly, and may your dreams always come true. We'll see you real soon, Mouseketeers.